Check it out.
Swanky site.
So we got this from Timcast.com. Shock poll. 2 in 3 Southern Republicans want to secede from the United States. And this story is actually based off of a little quote tweet I had when I tweeted at Cenk Uygur. Cenk of the Young Turks says, according to a new YouGov poll, 2/3 of Southern Republicans want to secede from America. Where have I seen this movie before? But this time it's a confederacy of dunces led by King Dunce Trump. By the way, when you want to betray America, that makes you, by definition, un-American. Oh, man, Cenk Uygur, Cenk, you got those Southern Republicans. They want to secede from the Union. How dumb are they? You know, anybody in any political faction that wants to must be really, really dumb. Oh, hey, let me pull up the poll that shows 47% of Democrats in the West, which includes California, want to secede from the Union too. Hey, where have I heard this story before? It's like a confederacy of dunces led by who? You, Cenk? Listen. Okay, 2/3 is a lot. 47%, a little bit less than half. But come on, we're talking about, in the West, the largest faction of people that want to secede from the Union, according to the poll that he cited, are Democrats. Last I checked, Cenk Uygur is a Democrat and is within that faction that has nearly 50% of their base wanting to secede from the Union. So, what's the saying? Living in glass houses and throwing rocks. And
people in glass houses shouldn't throw hard stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, you gotta love the Young Turks though. But check this out. So here's the actual data. Well, it is true that the Southern Republicans, 66%, are in favor of seceding from the Union. Effectively, this effectively is a Balkanization, where you've got the Pacific region, the Mountain region, the Heartland region, the Northeast, and the South. You can see that in the Mountain region, 43% of Republicans want to secede, 35% of Independents. Now, here's the one that really made me laugh. In the Heartland, which is basically the Midwest, 43% of Independents, the plurality, want to secede from the Union. So there's something about being in the Midwest where they're like, we don't like Republicans or Democrats.
I feel that.
I think it might have something to do with the fact that Chicago, Minneapolis, very, very Democrat. So the people there are very unsatisfied with Democrats.
Party politics is crap, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. People that get all tribal and they're like, I'm good because I'm part of this group. Like, come on, man. Give me a message. Give me something.
That's actually part of the analysis. When they were going through the data, they said it may be not that they actually want to secede from the U.S. to form new regional unions. And again, this poll is literally asking people, would you want to Balkanize the United States? It may be that they're trying to virtue signal. That's what one of the researchers said. Like, these people are asked and they're like, I'm a proud Democrat and I support the, right. Or I'm from the West or whatever. Let me tell you something. It's there's two different versions of how many people wanted to declare independence in the American Revolution. For some reason, for a while, people thought it was 1/3 in favor, 1/3 opposed, and 1/3 abstained. But that was based on a letter from John Adams where he was actually talking about the French Revolution. At least that's the modern historical interpretation. So the best data I could find is that it's between 40 and 45% of the colonists wanted to declare independence.
Wow.
15 to 20 were loyalists, and the rest were like, I don't care, leave me alone. Cool. We have talked about this in the past, so we'll consider that a correction because we had bad numbers last time. I said it was like 35.
Yeah, I heard
wrong.
10%.
No.
I've heard crazy numbers.
People say only 3% actually fought.
I see. Maybe that's what it was.
But here's the other thing too. So first, I'll point out we're like the average right now is 35% of the country across all party lines and all places. 35% would be in favor of Balkanizing. I mean, that's massive, and that's up, right? So in the South, the number I think in February was 50%. Now it's 66. So we are moving very, very quickly. If we get to 40 or 45% of the American people being like, we're done with this.
My problem is this poll. Like, we were talking about this before the show a little bit. How many people were polled? Was it like 1,000 people and 300 of them said?
I think it was 2,700 something.
So you've got like 600 people that said we want to secede, and they're like 30% of the country, and it's like, no, there was 600 people.
But 2,000 is enough to get a representative sample.
2,750.
Yeah, well, that's more than enough. You can get a representative sample with 1,000. I think what it is what you said about virtue signaling, or people who are partisan. Like, if you didn't like Biden, you're like, I want to leave the country. But does that mean you actually want to secede? Or does that mean you actually want local autonomy? Because those are two different things. And for the Midwest point, the reason why they're always torn or swing voters is they're the Reagan Democrats. They're the people who align with union politics, who are against free trade, But on social issues, they align more with the Republican Party. This is why, Reagan won, I think in the second election, every state but Minnesota. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. And eventually, those became the swing states because Reagan was converting those voters who didn't like the excesses from the Democratic Party and the social movement, but were mostly working class union voters. And that's who we're fighting over now. It's those same set of voters that Reagan flipped then. So that's why I think the independents are I want to get out of here, because neither party is really serving them, in their opinion.
You were correct. It was Minnesota. DC as well, but obviously it's not a state. So, yeah. But it was just Minnesota. Yeah. I think people are serious about balkanization. We saw there was that war game that the DNC did. Mm-hmm. It was heavily reported on before the election, where Boston Globe reported John Podesta. What's his position? He was the chair of the DNC or some high-ranking position.
He was Hillary's campaign manager, right?
Yeah, he said if Trump wins, the western states should secede from the union.
Cal exit, if you remember that.
Yeah. But not just California, also Oregon and Washington. And so when you see that 47% of Democrats there, according to a representative sample, which, as you said, is more than enough, 2,750, that's a lot of people.
That sounds like virtue signaling that Podesta would say that people should secede, because anyone
that's private. He didn't publicly say it.
Oh, okay.
It was in a private DNC war game that some people who were witness to it talked to some journalists. So Podesta didn't come out and say, hey, guys, go do this. Privately, he was like, I think this is what needs to happen. And then someone went to the journalists and were like, yo, this is what he's saying. Not that I can trust any of these journalists, mind you. Right. For all I know, John Podesta didn't say anything. Yeah. But what do you do when they lie? I've had journalists manufacture quotes from me. Yeah. One guy from, I think it's the New Yorker, where he took two different quotes and put them together to make a different sentence. Yeah. Amazing.
That. Or half a quote. Usually if you widen it out 10 words in either direction or 30 seconds in a clip, and it changes completely what they say, then maybe you shouldn't be running with that in the media.
There's a clever way to get around giving quotes to journalists when you know they're going to try and pull some BS. And it's to add breaks that are seemingly non sequitur in your sentence. So if someone were to say, what's your favorite color? I would say my, Tim Pool, favorite color, because I grew up on the south side of Chicago, is actually, and this is because of my birthday, green. And then what they'll have to do is they'll put my ... favorite color ... and it makes it impossible. So if you're trying to make sure they can't pull things out of context, you can add things to it that forces them to put in by doing that. Otherwise, they can try and break the sentence up and it looks really weird in print. Right. When what they usually do then is just do a paraphrase where they'll be like, he expressed to me his favorite color was green or something.
Or I mean, if you said it in audio, they might put your face, if there's video, over the audio and just cut it together the way that they want it.
Oh yeah. That's why I don't talk on the phone. There's phones for certain things. But anyway, back to the
balkanization. By the way, Cenk not going to lead anything. 5% in his congressional run. Let us never forget. He was going to show us how progressives could win in purple districts. Right. By the way,
but I just love how this shows that Cenk didn't actually go to the website. I pulled up the article from Brightline Watch to read the data, so I could do a segment about this, and I did it earlier on my Timcast channel because I'm like, what does it mean that Republicans want to secede? The South wants to secede? And I pulled them it's actually missing the bigger picture, I guess. If you actually add all these up and average it out, it's a decent amount of people. So 35% might actually be relative. It might be incorrect because I'm adding up the totals and then dividing it by the regions. Right. And it doesn't necessarily represent how many people in each region actually want to secede. So the heartland, I think we need to go by population density. So I'm sure the heartland doesn't have as many people as the South. The South probably has substantially more people between Florida, Texas, Atlanta. And then you look at the Pacific, which is Alaska, California, Oregon, and Washington, probably a lot less people. So the percentages probably don't add up properly the way I'm describing it. In fact, it could be substantially more if we actually go by population density and did better math.
Right. I would tend to think that it would be less. At least the serious ones are definitely less. I would like to see, you ever seen Sam Harris break down the spheres of influence of radicalization? That version of this, where it's these people want to leave, but do they really just want local autonomy?
But what's the difference? I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it's the states' rights movements under Obama. They would say that Texas should secede and be its own state or break up into 5 states, as it says in their constitution. But in reality, they just wanted the governor to invoke more 10th Amendment stuff against Obama and challenge what he was doing, which is similar to what happened in California.
So how do you know that's actually what they wanted, though?
Well, because I don't think when push comes to shove, these people would actually vote in like a secessionist party in their state.
I think they would. I think you often see that regular people vote for the extreme version of these things because of, like, especially right now as the rhetoric is ramping up.
I mean, do they though? Because they voted in Biden in the primary, and like he was distinctly not extreme, like in the primary at least, compared to who he was talking to, Bernie. Who?
But what did the people say they wanted?
Well, in polls, they would say that, like in the top line polls, this is why I don't trust polling. They would say that they would want Bernie Sanders' positions in the top line polls. But when you go into the details, you realize that they think Medicare for all is Obamacare with the public option, which is actually Biden's position.
Right.
Which is why when the progressives were like, we won on every issue.
Well, so they voted for what they wanted.
Yeah.
Right. So if an individual says they want to secede, they'd probably vote for it.
No, but that's the top line. Like that would be your I want Medicare for all. But then when you ask them what do you think this actually means?
Oh, okay.
Like, and you break it down, like you're gonna get people who just want states' rights or autonomy, or maybe like an American federation where they break up. Some people want that, but not
right.
a lot.
They don't know what they want. If they really like, what is a secession? You attempt by military force to, like, the American federal government will come fight you and kill people and burn cities to stop that state from seceding. I don't think they want that.
It's like if you ever got into a fight with a girlfriend and she's like, I want to break up with you. And then you're like, okay, let's talk about this. And then you talk about it and you realize she just wants you to stop being a jerk. Like, you know, it comes down from that top line aggressive thing.
It is because if they start saying that, then you're like, I'm going to start taking you at your word. You got to take them at their word.
Oh yeah.
I don't play games like that. If someone came up to me and they were like, you know, if someone came up to me and said, I'm going to quit because I'm unhappy, it was great working with you.
Well, what would secession look like then if we could lay it out for people clearly? Like,
well, I think Civil War won't work in this regard. We're talking about 5-region balkanization, right? So I will say, first and foremost, Joe Biden keeps talking about this as being the greatest threat since the Civil War and blah, blah, blah. He's using the power of the federal government to go after Trump supporters and people they deem to be extreme. They're potentially, I guess it's now public, they're compiling lists of these people. You know, they're going to be tracking. The Jack Posobiec reported it. Now there's some statements about it. So what would it look like? Well, there is a lot of power in the federal government, but that power is derived from the states. And I don't mean that figuratively, like the states chose to create the federal government. No, like the people who are in the federal government are sent there, are voted in. The Capitol Police, the National Guard, the power the federal government has all across the country from people who serve in the military and the armed forces come from states. So what would happen if somebody lives in, say, you know, Oregon, and they're as far left as they come, and they work in some kind of law enforcement capacity, and then someone in the federal government says something, we want to do X, we need your assistance. But if the country is balkanizing, they might say, no, I care more about my state than I care about going to DC to do whatever you want. Or if balkanization is happening, and then someone in Oregon is told, like, we're going to be deploying you to Texas, they're going to be like, I got to stay and defend Oregon.
Yeah.
So it's that is a question of if we balkanize. But here's what I think is possible. If this sentiment is this widespread, 47% in the West, makes sense to me, 33% of independents, and 66% of Republicans and 50% of independents in the South, that's crazy. And these are very heavily Republican states. What I think actually could happen is loss of confidence, in which case, this is what I talked about several times as to how I think a civil war could actually happen. Not that a bunch of states get together and say, we hereby declare, good sir, and they start caning someone in Congress. But actually what happens is a small town in Oklahoma puts up a roadblock and says, not welcome, and then starts saying, we're not going to abide by these lockdowns or whatever Joe Biden is saying. And then the feds have to come in and the people in Oklahoma say, we're not letting you in our town. You have no purchase here, good sir. Look at what happens in like Ohio, where I think they arrested an ATF agent.
Right.
Those are exactly the kinds of things that start happening. Now you have Second Amendment sanctuaries popping up, and I think 2/3 of the counties of the United States. That is a break of confidence at a growing scale. So Biden's freaking out. It's the greatest threat what the Republicans are doing. Because he probably sees the federal government's power is actually starting to dwindle. Ohio recently, some sheriff said, we're no longer going to be taking illegal immigrants from ICE. Why? Because they send them here, they tell us to hold them and let them go into our towns. No dice. Not going to happen.
Right.
The plans that they had, not working. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.